I was holding a revival meeting in South Carolina in a little church by the name of Beaver Dam Baptist Church. On a Thursday night, I preached. I do not remember what it was. It wasn't this sermon. And the church had three little sections in it, just like this, right these three sections here. And when I started giving the invitation, on the back row, on the back seat, I saw a young man stand up on the seat part, and that put his head and shoulders above everybody else. And we were giving the invitation. And he began to look around over that congregation, and God impressed me to go back and speak to him. So I walked off the platform. We had 20 or 25 people to come forward. And I walked off the platform, and I was right in front of him before he ever knew that I was coming down the aisle. I looked up at his face, and I said, "Young man, are you saved? Do you know Jesus?" And before I could get any further, he said, "No, I'm not saved." He said, "For your information, J. Harold Smith, we did not come here to hear you preach tonight. We came here to pick up a couple of girls to go to a dance, and as soon as we can locate them, you can have our space." God is my witness, as kindly as I could say it. I said, "Son, I really believe the Holy Ghost impressed me to come back," and that's as far as I got. He said, "I told you, sir, that I did not come here to hear you preach. I told you that I didn't want to be saved. I told you that we came here to get a couple of girls to go to a dance, and as soon as we can locate them, you can have our space." He said, "And now, you and the Holy Ghost both go to hell." In all of my ministry, till this very night, when I just repeat that, cold chills run over my body. And I began to back off from him like I would a rattlesnake. And I didn't say another word till I got back to the pulpit. I said, "Folk, I do not know who that young man is standing on that pew, but he just stepped over God's deadline. He just blasphemed against God's Spirit, and God signed his death warrant, and God's going to kill him." He pulled up his hands and shoulders just like this and out loud said, "Oh, yeah?" I made no response. He got those two girls, drove about 5 miles to that dance hall. He and his buddy, according to his buddy, about 5 minutes till 12 that night, stepped out on the little old porch of that dance hall to smoke a cigarette and to take a drink of liquor. His buddy said, "We lit our cigarettes. I had the flask. I took a drink. And then after I'd taken a drink, I started to hand it over to him, and he reached out to take it, but he never touched it. He folded up like a jackknife, fell on that little old dance hall porch, and began to scream like a panther. The orchestra stopped playing, and the dancers stopped dancing, and they came out and picked him up and carried him in and put him on the dance hall floor and sent for Dr. Mays. Dr. Mays said he got to that dance hall about 1:15 a.m. He said when he walked in and saw that boy lying on the floor, he was aware of two things simultaneously. Number one, there was a boy that was sitting or standing on that pew back of him in the service that night. And he said before I ever touched him, I knew he was a corpse. He said if I ever examined anybody with all of the skill that I had as a doctor, I examined him. And I finally wrote on the death certificate, the cause of death unknown. He said if I'd have put on there, preacher, what I know I'd have put on there, I'd have put on there, God